topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Who is January Jones? She is not a young, beautiful, talented actress on Mad Men. She is not an older, gorgeous, exotic dancer from the Johnny Carson show. She is an author, and she wrote Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment, that reached #1 at Amazon.com. She is a reality TV golf personality with world high-stakes golf televised on HDNet. She is a humorist and winologist expert. She is your featured host today on January Jones Sharing Success Stories. So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and listen to Ms. Jones with her eclectic roster of guests as you learn life's lessons. These stories plus sharing equals success. Welcome, and remember, beware, because you are entering the no whining world of January Jones.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a glittery, glowing day. With Christmas coming, it's so exciting. I'm happy to welcome you to our podcast. And, I'm doing glitter granny now, so I'll tell you more about that. For my listeners, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a chance to meet a stewardess who served in Desert Storm? Or someone who has met Mother Teresa? Now they're called flight attendants. Do you remember Pan Am? Oh, yeah. How about Eastern Airlines? I guess that's dating me. Tell me, can you imagine what it would be like to attend a wedding in a sultan's palace? Or imagine being in Moscow during a coup attempt. Now, would you like some Desert Storm stories? Now, would you like to hear some real airline stories about holidays, what it's like to fly during the holidays? Tell me, have you ever heard of a book called On Butterflies' Wings? If you can answer yes or maybe to any of the questions I've asked, then you are in the right place. And I'd like to welcome you to January Jones Sharing Senior Success Stories today. Time to rest, relax, go get some wine, get some cheese and crackers, so you can join us in the No Wine Zone. Now, let me tell you about our guest today. She graduated from American University in Washington, D.C., majoring in political science and international studies with minors in sociology and psychology. She is an international flight attendant. She's traveled to more than 75 countries, and she's been based in 5. She divides her time now between Houston and Los Angeles, and today she's in DC. It's my pleasure to welcome to our podcast, Tania Anderson. Hi, Tania. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Happy holidays to you, January.
I know. Isn't this exciting, this holiday season? I can't believe how it's here already.
I know, right?
Now, you're in DC. Are you on a layover or are you there?
Oh, I'm on my days off. So this is where I grew up. So I came back to see friends and go to some holiday parties, some good ones.
Okay, that's perfect. That's kind of what the flight attendants do. They're all over the world. 75 countries. I checked my logbook. I've only been to 50.
Hey, but but it's a blessing. It's great because you take so much information out of it and from your experience, and it just goes into your memory, and you have that experience for the rest of your life to call back
Oh,
on.
for sure. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about flying and working during the holidays and how that affects airline families. For our family, my husband's schedule determined when we would celebrate the holiday. And we would have our holiday when he was home, and we worked around it. Share with us a few holiday stories you have.
Well, for us, it's kind of potluck because I'm with an airline where they tell you where you're going to be flying to. So, like about the middle of December, we'll know where we're going to be flying for January, and then you can start making plans. So, I
Mhm.
took the first 11 days of December off. Which is what our usual thing because we fly like 3 weeks at a time abroad. And night before last, I went to a party at the Czech embassy, which was lovely, with live music by an ensemble playing classical music, and they had a really nice buffet. Unfortunately, the ambassador wasn't there because I would have loved to have met him. That's something really nice to do. And actually, it's kind of funny because on the way out, you had to go through the security, not the gate, but the little security house. And I
Mhm.
got there and I'm waiting for the Uber, and then the door gets stuck, and everybody, they're wanting to go home. They're trying to get in the door, and I start fighting with the door, and security guard says, "Don't hurt yourself." I'm like, "No, I'm a flight attendant. We're stubborn." And so I got the door open, and here comes this flood of people to leave. And then last night I went to the annual California State Society party up on Capitol Hill in the Cannon Caucus building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I took my girlfriend. She'd never been on the Hill before. So,
Oh,
I used to lobby as a volunteer for international human rights. So it's quite enormous, but it's heady stuff. You go by, you see the plaques on the wall with their name and what state they're from. And there's some direct decorations out front, like nutcrackers, big nutcrackers, like 5 feet tall, that sort of thing.
For some of our listeners who you've been on the show before, and I'm so happy to have you back with us. Share with our listeners the name of your airline and what kind of airplanes you fly, and tell us a little bit about the airline you work for now.
Okay, it's a charter airline, so it's called Atlas, and we fly the NBA and the NFL, and actually my colleagues. I haven't gotten the whole story yet, but my colleagues flew that Indian man from Bombay, the one who's extremely wealthy, where they had the enormous wedding and everybody's coming out with diamonds, the size of silver dollars around their neck. I don't know if you
Okay.
know about that, but anyway, my colleagues flew that flight. I didn't. I mostly fly the military, but I love that because they're just so polite and so wonderful. I support them 100%. I love kidding with them. Sometimes I'll say, "Gentlemen, do you know why they don't put any liquor on this airplane? Because they know I'll give it all to you."
That's great. And the type of airplane you fly is a 747 usually, right?
Yeah, that's right. Just like Pan Am, who had like about 38 of them. Yes, we have 737s and 767s.
Okay, and that's 747. That's the airplane that my husband, that's where his career ended on, flying down to Australia and New Zealand, and it's one of
Yeah.
our very favorite planes. You were talking earlier about the door at the embassy. I have a curious question. Have you ever had to evacuate an airplane?
No, I haven't. Thank God. And I've been flying since 1985, but we've had some other pretty strange things. Yeah, we had like a medical emergency a little bit over a year ago, and the soldier he was like 22, and he got really ill, and the colonel was administering oxygen to him, and he went through 3 oxygen bottles like just while we went up the coast of America. So now we're starting to cross the Atlantic to go to Lithuania, and
Uh,
the purser was on it. He's calling MedLink to find out what to do, and I just had this inherent feeling that when you're 22 years old and you're so ill like that, And the colonel said every time he took the mask away that the soldier would throw up. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh, doesn't sound good. So I said to the colonel, we're going to do everything we can to turn around, get back. And so we did. And we landed in New England, to a place where they know us very, very well. And they're absolutely wonderful. It turned out this kid had a bad heart. I found out later.
Oh, okay. So that would have caused that problem. You know, I can remember when I was with Eastern Airlines and we went through training and we had to simulate evacuating an airplane. So they took us out into Biscayne Bay. This was a long time ago, and we all had to jump out of these rowboats or out of these inflatable boats, and we had to simulate saving people in the water. It was insane. What kind of training did you have for evacuation?
Oh, all kinds of things. But really, January, it hasn't changed as much as you might think. So
Really?
when I trained with Pan Am in 1985, it's very similar to what you said, except we did it in a swimming pool. You inflate the life raft, and you take turns inflating your vest. Like you do it as you're leaving the airplane, not before you leave the airplane, because then it's like all of a sudden like this, you're in everybody's way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, then you simulate different things. You put up a raft, and then you delegate authority to. You put a canopy up over the raft. Then you start delegating authority to people, and you discuss what you take off the airplane, like the first aid kit, maybe even a survival kit.
Yeah.
You have a survival manual in there. You go through that. It really hasn't changed as much as you might think.
Okay. Well, all I remember is that the Coast Guard, they were going around making waves, and they were having the best time because they were pulling all of us back in the boat, everyone who was wearing bikinis. So, I mean, everyone probably volunteered for that job. That was
I know, it's
great. Crazy times. Now, this holiday, do you know now where you will be on Christmas this year?
No, I have no idea. I have no idea. My colleagues right now are over in Germany, and they're going to all the Christmas festivals, which is really fabulous. Yeah, it's so beautiful. They decorate it so well, and they you go around and you have that mulled wine, and oh, and there's just so many wonderful things to buy, and they're not as expensive as some stores. So you're happy to find some bargains.
Oh gosh. Well, I remember all during our flying years, all the bargains. And it was interesting how the flight attendants, if they'd find a great place or great store, it would just spread and it would go through the grapevine.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everyone would, you had your list at every layover, what store to go, what street, what name to say.
Right. See, except to underscore your point, like 2 weeks ago, I was in South Korea. Well, there was something there happened a few days ago. And we were only there one night, and I hurried through breakfast the next day and ran out to my favorite little shop. And they've got some really nice things in there. These wonderful boxes, wooden boxes that are inlaid with mother of pearl in a dragon or, a tiger or something like that. I mean, just really beautiful, beautiful stuff to give friends back home for Christmas.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Talk about Christmas shopping. That's a dream. I have another dream that I want to share with everyone. My book has just come out in paperback, Living and Dying Without Whining.
Juicing, living, and dying without whining. A memoir. 80 years of magical moments written by January Jones. Patriotic moments. Revealing moments, thrilling and comforting moments, sassy moments, the age of Aquarius, exciting moments, reality moments, career moments, touching moments, with many, many more magical moments. Available at Amazon.com and Audible.com.
email to info@januaryjones.com, and in subject line put free ebook, and then I will send it to you for a Christmas present. And then after you get the book, be sure to write a wonderful review at Amazon for me. Tania, let's share a little bit of information on your book so our listeners can get your book too.
That's so cool. Thank you. So, gosh, I write about so many things, about meeting Nelson Mandela when he was given the Congressional Gold Medal by Bill Clinton in 1998. I was blessed by Mother Teresa in Calcutta, which was just pure serendipity because she wasn't even supposed to be home. She was supposed to be in Rome, meeting with the Pope because they were very good friends. Gosh, so many things, taking soldiers in and out of the first Gulf War. That was the first time. So about a month after Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, I flew the soldiers from the first Cavalry Fort Hood, Texas. It's called now Fort Vasasas or something. I took them into Dhahran, which is on the east coast of Saudi Arabia, south of Kuwait. And that's where they were processed. And then actually met somebody there, this wonderful gal, Shelley, with the Air Force. And she was manifesting the theater. She's taking inventory on everything that's coming in. And we became friends. We're still friends to this day. I write about her a little bit in my book, too. There's so many things. Lived in Nigeria, trained flight attendants there. so many things.
Of these 75 countries, what would give me your top 5? What are your favorite top 5 countries?
Oh boy. Well, I adore Italy. I love it. I really love Japan. They run such a good show. They're just so organized. They are so polite, and they just for a city of 38 million, Tokyo is remarkable. Mm-hmm. But I have something good to say about every country I've ever been to. Really? I love Spain. That's the land of my father's ancestors. They were from Barcelona. Actually, I was in Barcelona the night the men were walking on the moon in July of 1969. It was so fun. It was in like the middle of the night. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning because I'm 17 years old, so it's really exciting. And then about a week later, I was over in Venice. This is obviously before I was flying. I was in Venice at St. Mark's Square, and there was a full moon. And I heard these ladies, older ladies, saying, "Mabel, I can't believe we have men up there walking on the moon." But I can understand for their paradigm. That was really something.
Oh, yeah. Well, but those are my top 5 countries, too. I loved them. Of course, we lived in London, so that became Anglophile. So spending a year there where we're based there, we fell in love with London. One Christmas, I remember my husband had a trip, and he was going to Hawaii, and his flight was Christmas Eve. So we just packed up all the kids.
You.
Because no one else was flying on Christmas Eve, because who would travel Christmas Eve? And so we got to pass ride, and we flew over with him to Hawaii. And so we woke up Christmas morning in the islands having an incredible, memorable Christmas. One of our very favorite memories. What about when you look back on all your 75 countries and all your holidays, what are some of your favorite holidays?
Oh, you mean just in general, like around the clock?
Well, as close as you've been.
Well, I love 4th of July because of the spirit. And actually, last night we were driving alongside the Potomac River, and I was saying to one of my best friends, Dawn, I was saying, I can't wait. One day we've got to charter just like a little boat for 4th of July and just sit in the middle of the Potomac River and watch the fireworks go off because it's so stunning. And then you kind of like, well, it's crowded in the Potomac River too. But you avoid all the crowds are actually there, at the base of the Washington Monument, that sort of thing. But I try to make make the best of every holidays that make sense, and I have friends in other religions. So when it's their holiday, like Eid or something like that, I'm always sure to wish them a happy Eid and, a feast at the end of Ramadan, these sort of things. We're quite a cosmopolitan bunch.
Oh, for sure. And of course, as you said, other countries have religions have different types of holidays. And I love the story you told about if you could share that again, about when you went to the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
And the bride wasn't there.
That's funny because the other night I was at the Czech embassy and I met a couple from Nigeria, and they're boomers, and he was laughing when I called myself Baturi, which means white woman in one of their major languages. He just laughed. But so what happened was I worked for Chief Cabo. Chief Cabo's favorite brother, Garba, and I became friends. And Garba wanted me to have some of the Nigerian experiences. They don't really have safari. They've let it go. They've let people go in and poach the animals. So they really don't have safari like they do in Kenya and other places. So
Right.
Garba arranged for me to fly up to Sokoto, which is northwestern Nigeria, to the Sultan's palace on the occasion of his daughter's wedding. So I'm all excited because I'm thinking about what am I going to wear, but I took plenty of silk. And with long dresses, below the knee, very respectful and that sort of thing. And so I went, and I couldn't even get out of the Honda car. Everybody's pressing forward. Who's the madame? Who's the white woman? So I got a little taste of what it feels like to be famous. It was kind of funny. So we got out, we went inside, and I said to my friend Bello Katune, who was well connected because he worked with the governor of that state. They had the British system. And I said, "Where's the bride? I can't wait to meet her." And he said, "Oh no, madame, she will not be here today." I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, she's with like her ladies in waiting, her bridesmaids at another location, just drinking Cokes and Fantas and having a lunch." And I was so disappointed because I thought it would be so wonderful to meet her and just see how she's dressed and just because I'm into culture. I'm really into culture. So I just really wanted to see it. But then I went to the main hall where the Sultan was. And he was a tiny little guy. And he's sitting on this big red velvet throne that actually just dwarfed him. And they said, "Your Majesty, Madame Tania has come all the way from the United States of America on the occasion of your daughter's wedding." And he just went like this. He just went, like, big deal, but see, I could laugh at myself too, and I thought, okay, and then I was escorted to another part of the palace. And what's interesting about that is they do something that we don't really do in the States, and they have a separate room for the very impoverished. I mean, very, very poor people. And it's just the men, and they come through the buffet, and then they take like a to-go plate to take home to their families. Yeah, it's quite amazing.
Okay. Now, was this bride, I'm curious, was this a child bride, or was this, you never met her?
No, she was 20 something, but I did almost meet a child bride 10 years old in India, in northern India one time.
Wow. I remember when my husband was flying on the 747, that was the crew complement for the back end was 18. Is that still the number that takes off with that plane every time?
Geez, I don't know, to tell you the truth, because I've worked so many different configurations of 747s.
Yeah.
Like at Pan Am, it used to be 21 in first class, 44 in business, and 347 in the back for a total of about 425. But when you fly charters, it's a different configuration. We do have a couple of 747s that have the pods up front. And that last year we were flying the College Bull. I flew the Michigan State. They're so nice. They were just charming and I had the pom-pom girls. I didn't have the team, but they were charming for days, and they knew what was going on, and they're all excited, and they won. It was like the equivalent of their Super Bowl, except for College Bowl, obviously, instead of NFL. But they were up in the pods up front. They like that.
I know, it's fun because you think, well, these people can't be impressed anymore. But one of my husband's favorite flights was he got to fly the charter to bring, and he graduated from Ohio State. So he got to bring the team from Columbus to Los Angeles for the Rose Bowl.
That's fabulous. Did he go to the Rose Bowl?
Pardon?
Was
He
he
went
able
to,
to?
he went to Ohio State. And so as the plane was coming in, taxiing in LA, he had a big, out of the cockpit, he had a big Ohio State flag.
Good for you. Wow, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so
Big.
he was on the evening news, and then when they came off the plane, the Rose Queens, every time they kiss you, they put a rose on your jacket, your
Oh, okay.
suit.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so then he came home with all these roses because they all wanted to have the,
So you can count how many times he got kissed, huh?
yeah, yeah. Now, when you look back on your career, who do you, when you're people that you've chartered and flown, if you can share with us, who were some of the most impressive, some of the most amazing people that you've met?
Well, I had one time on the Gulfstream, so that only seats like 10 to 12, and that's cheek to jowl. But it's such a beautiful, pristine aircraft. This is 20 years ago. And I flew Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman, and they were with Lucy Liu and a couple of other Hollywood types who were going from LA to the Virgin Islands. And then we're going to pick up their kids and fly them up to school in Rhode Island. Well, it's funny because I've been Screen Actors Guild since 2000. And so, you really, really are just dying to hear what they're saying, like about the next contract and who's turned it down and who they're thinking about for the lead in such and such a film. But of course, you can't do that. And there are not too many places to go on the Gulfstream, but they were absolutely delightful. They were so, so sweet. And Danny DeVito was helping me with the coffee maker because it wasn't working. He said, Mr. DeVito, really, I'm sorry, you'd have a seat. He says, no, I'm enjoying myself. He's poking away at it. And then at one point, Rhea Perlman looks at me and she says, now I've been watching you the entire flight and you need to sit down. That Jewish mama stuff. And I just love it. It was just so sweet, just so caring and so sweet. But here's a trip that we had that was really amazing. I don't know if they still do it or not, but it was February of that year. So we had a 727 configured to 50 first class seats, all the same size, and 4 club tables. And every single person on that flight, just from LA to Las Vegas, what was a VIP. I mean, it was amazing. So we had Eva Marie Saint, we had Brooke Shields, we had Salma Hayek, we had the late Quincy Jones, we had Harvey Keitel, we had a couple of the Friends people. It was just amazing. I mean, that's years ago, but it was just so amazing. And everybody was fine. It was all good. And it was the Show West convention. That's what it's called. And what you do is you go and you talk about your latest movie. So they're excited because they want to get the word out about whatever their film is.
Right.
And we get to and Brooke Shields actually came to the gala and spoke to my colleague Emlyn and said, I remember you used to fly on MGM Grand and you were so good to my mother and I. And he was just so excited. We had Courtney Cox. We had so many people. Anyways, yeah. So anyway, all I wanted to say was, so we pull up, to the pad because you don't really have a gate there, and like you have 50 because there are 50 people on board. You have 50 stretch limos all stacked up like cornrows, just like perfect order,
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. Right now we're approaching Christmas, and I'm hoping that a lot of you listening are looking for gifts for those hard to buy people, the gifts where you don't know what to get them or where to go. And I'm suggesting you go to glittergranny.com and do some shopping with Ginger Ale and myself.
Welcome to Glitter Granny Gifts, to give or to get. Hosted by January Jones, aka Glitter Granny, and her golden doodle Ginger Ale. If you're a granny who wants to glitter and glow, it's time to join us for a sparkling shopping experience that will be unique and so very special. Whenever you need a spectacular gift, Granny will help you find it. Along with gifts for family, friends, and holidays, there are even glitter gifts for coworkers, in-laws, doctors, and you can even find something for your friend who has everything. If you need a really good gag gift, you'll find it here. Hats, canes, shoes, accessories. Now, just go to glittergranny.com and check it out.
I'm getting so excited about Christmas. I've been busy doing my shopping at Amazon. I guess a lot of people are doing that these days. Tanya, I love hearing about all the famous people, but share with our listeners. I thought your story about Mother Teresa and what the work she does was an amazing story. Could you share a little bit of that with us?
Well, yes, it's absolutely remarkable. So she founded Missions of Charity in 1952 in Calcutta. She's originally from Albania, and
Oh,
she was looking for a very poor place. I tell you, Calcutta is difficult. I've been to New Delhi and Agra and Bombay, and Calcutta is very rough. It's very, very rough. So she founded the Home for the Destitute and Dying. And in 1952, the year I was born, she found a man in the street and he's just on his last legs. And so she took him and gave him shelter. And that's what inspired the whole thing. And took care of him so he would have somebody, as he's leaving this world.
uh-huh.
And even now, it's still very difficult. The homeless people sleep outside, and the in the middle of the night, the cart comes along and it feels the pulses. If somebody hasn't got a pulse, they put him in the cart and they take him to the pyre in the center of town. I mean, that's still what goes on to this day. She also has a wonderful two orphanages, because the girls are a liability in India. That was one of the things I was volunteering for on Capitol Hill as a lobbyist to try and offer an incentive to the government in India to kind of change their ways, because it's a deep cultural thing. But if you have a daughter, she's a liability, particularly if you're poor, because you have to come up with the dowry when she's going to get married. And of course, you want her to marry the best possible person she can in her class. So it gets negated. So when you go to the orphanages, you see many more girls than boys. And I met this lovely lady called Sister Anne Therese. Unfortunately, she just passed away about a year ago. And she arranged for us to go to the Home for the Destitute and Dying. And that was fascinating, because you see, sometimes they have 2 or 3 diseases you don't even know. But what happened was, over the years, Mothers Teresa's nuns were nursing them, so they became better, and so now they had to rehab them, because now you can release them, back to wherever home they were in, and so you'd have to teach them a skill, like for women, basket weaving or something like that, And then the third place I went to was their leper shelter, which is about 45 minutes north of Calcutta, because I wanted to see how she ran the show. And I don't know if you know or not, but I'm not Catholic, I'm Episcopalian. All the saris, the blue and white saris that Mother Teresa wore and her sisters wear, are made by the lepers in the leper colony where we went to see them. Yeah, and they raise their own chickens and they grow their own vegetables. So it's organic, really. They're eating organic vegetables. So they run a really good show. They're in many countries. Even then, they were in 82 countries, and they're in New York. They're in Brooklyn, New York as well. Missions of Charity.
Yeah, amazing. Does your airline have mandatory retirement? I mean, how long do you think you'll be able to keep doing this wonderful career?
I know people ask me that, and it's hard to say. Pilots now have to retire at 65.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I just love it so much, particularly the military. And, sometimes we have like a 3 a.m. pickup in the lobby, and you wake up and you're kind of sluggish. And then the minute they get on the airplane, it's like I get a second wind, automatic second wind. And I mean, obviously they're very young, but when you think of what they go through, I mean, just basic training. I mean, when I was 18 years old, I wouldn't have done well in basic training, because I'm not that athletic and stuff, but I mean, the things that they do every day for our country. I mean, the sacrifice is really great. And they're just absolutely the best passengers in the world. I love them. They're just fantastic.
Yeah. And so for your how often do you have to go back and do training to stay current on the different aircraft?
Oh, once a year. And then we also do CPR as well.
Oh, okay. And where do you go to train?
In Miami.
Oh, okay. That's where we all started off.
Oh, I know. And then we also do AED training, which is, yeah, and well, you've probably seen in the airports, they have, like you just open up the glass like you would for fire extinguisher, and it has the prompts and everything. First thing you do is turn it on, then you listen to the prompts, and if the AED detects even a slight heart beat, then it won't do it. So if you panic and you push the go button, it won't charge them. But you have to stand back from the patient, because if I'm touching that and I'm touching you, then like right through, I'm like a conductor so of the electricity. So but it's just the feeling. It's like such a great safety net to know that we have that on board if we need it.
Okay, and so you've flown a total of how many years?
Well, since 1985, so I guess next year it'll be 40.
And I think that's incredible that you've never had to evacuate a plane. Let's see, my husband flew close to 40 years, and nor did he ever have to do that. The closest I ever came, one time with Eastern, we had to foam a runway because they weren't sure that the landing gear was locked. So they foamed it, and we dropped the fuel, and then we came back, and the gear was locked. And it's so wonderful because so many people are fearful still to this day of flying. And when we add up the number of years you've flown, my husband, it's incredible how safe it is to fly.
It's remarkable. Yeah. I mean, I'm a real fan of Boeing too. I know there's been some trouble with the CEO and all that, where he was cutting corners, apparently. Yeah. But I've always been a real fan of Boeing, because the first time I flew to go to school in England when I was 14 was a Boeing 707. And I'm sitting in the window seat looking at, I'd flown before, but in the States, that was my first trip across the Atlantic. And I'm looking at the Rolls-Royce engines and checking it all. It was actually Air India, because my father knew one of the executives at Air India. So, and I was unaccompanied minor. I mean, I was 14, I was tall, but I'm still going from one continent to another. So that started it all.
Oh, yeah. And, I think everyone remembers their first flight. My first flight, I was 18, and it was just a puddle jumper. It was from Detroit to Grand Rapids, just within Michigan. And once you do that first flight, it's amazing how it changes your life. Don't you agree?
Yes. Actually, I did have, well, we had to prepare for a possible evacuation just last year. We had taken off from Germany, and we'd reached 10,000 feet, but we're not getting any more altitude. We're just going to, so we know something's kind of up. And there was something wrong with the fuel filter, and it was 767. So, we have to be really careful because we only have two engines. And so we prepared them. The crew was really good about it. We were all in perfect synchronicity. And one of the gals I work with, she's former American Airlines. So, they have a really good training program. So all together, we were 100%. Well, I briefed the overwing exit. So we had two overwing exits on each side. And I went over and I when I was talking for the Air Force gals, and I said, now be sure to, once the airplane comes to a complete stop, please be sure to look out the window and assess the situation, because you don't want to send it to a fire or situation that's worse than what's inside. And a couple of them started to tear up, and I said, now, I've been flying since I was 6 months old. I said, this is the first time I've ever had to brief anybody, and I've never been briefed on a possible evacuation. And I said, we're going to be just fine. And we had a smooth as silk landing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I'll never forget having to foam a runway, and I'll never forget being so glad we didn't have to use it.
Yeah, so I had that too one time in Saudi Arabia. We had an engine number 4 caught on fire right on takeoff. We were leaving Saudi Arabia on the 7-4 and going to Nigeria, and I was the front purser, and I'm facing aft, and I'm looking at, so I see engine number 2, and what had happened was actually engine number 4, but it flared up so much that it reflected engine number 2. Well, my colleague on the jump seat said, Tanya, what? I must have sounded like I was 5 years old. I went, fire, like that. And so the loadmaster came running down the spiral staircase and said, we're going back in. The guys are, so they're talking to the tower, declaring emergency because, we're kind of heavy. We're fueled up for a 5-hour flight to Nigeria. We're not super heavy, but we're kind of heavy. And then they're putting out the fire with the fire extinguishers inside the engine. And then they're talking to Jeddah Tower. And we went around and we came back in. We came in a little hard, but of course we could expect that because we're still a little bit heavy. We did dump some fuel, but probably not enough. And, you have 18 tires on the 747. 10 or 12 of them had to be replaced because the friction, comes out. The friction is so hot. So they blow up, like you say. They phoned us down too because they could see, well, you don't want any problems, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You look back over your career. I was very lucky when I was younger. I had an opportunity to meet Charles Lindbergh. And I've written about that in my book. As far as, and also I met the astronauts too. So now so much talk is about going to Mars. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I actually was just recently viewing a picture of a live kind of thing of the Mars, surface of the Mars. And it's kind of otherworldly, as you can imagine. Yeah, NASA is such an amazing group. I flew Buzz Aldrin one time in that same flight, TK Mattingly.
Oh, okay.
And I might just slip this in real fast, but somebody who I support, George Whitesides in California, is a new congressman, just got elected. He'll be sworn in January 3rd. And he's the former chief of staff for NASA. He had 15,000 workers underneath him. Now, that's a lot of responsibility to run herd, as my parents used to say, run herd on 15,000 employees. That heavy, and everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's very smart, so it can't be that easy, right?
For sure. So I assume you still vote in California?
Yes, yeah, it's easier. We have a really good system out there.
Yeah. Well, we were there for 40 years.
Oh, good. Okay, that's cool. I love it. I just love it.
We were based there for 40 years and we loved California. Then we retired to Arizona and now we retired to Florida, where everyone ends up eventually. Let me ask a question. I always ask everyone on my show before we go, if you could choose someone living or beyond to have dinner with, besides me,
there you go.
who would you invite to dinner, or one or two? You don't have to just limit it to one. Who would you like to have dinner with?
Anybody who, like MLK or Mother Teresa, because she did speak English, but she was so ill when I met her, but she didn't complain. Anybody who is like a world icon, Mahatma Gandhi, somebody of that ilk who could tell me what inspired them. Because all these people, these visionaries and luminaries, they knew at a very young age that they had a mission to fulfill. And I would just like to hear that whole story from A to Z. Like, tell me your life story from the first time you realized that you were different from everybody else.
Yeah. And it is incredible because when we talked earlier and when you were on the show before about the Dalai Lama, and I believe that when they decided that he's a mere child, when they find out that they're the Dalai Lama, which is incredible for a child to grow up with that title and to have all that responsibility ahead of them.
He's a remarkable man. I've heard him speak at American University, which is my alma mater, and then out at UCSB. And then when Schwarzenegger was the governor of California, Maria Shriver had this wonderful thing called the Governor's Women's Conference. wow. And all these, Sullenberger was there. And oh my gosh, anybody that's anybody was practically there. And I was volunteering for CARE, and it was just so much fun. But the Dalai Lama spoke, and it was just so cute because, Maria Shriver started out with, how does it feel to be surrounded by 14,000 women? Because that was the capacity of the Long Beach Convention Center, or how many people had RSVP'd. And he's just laughing. And then he has a baseball hat on, because how the lights, how the lights come in on you. And Maria's trying to figure out a way to get him to take off the hat, because she wants to see him. And she said, is there any chance? Well, would you mind removing your hat? And he said, but the lights are in my eyes. But he's laughing the whole time. I mean, he's a wonderful sport. He's just so well-centered and so obviously incredibly spiritual, but just an otherworldly human being.
Special, very special. Now, I've just finished my 8th book. Curious to know, what do you have on the drawing board? What are your projects that you're looking forward to?
Oh, well, I'm already 10 chapters into the second book, because I still have quite a lot of material about things. I want to talk about my school in England, because it's very, very special. I mean, there were amazing people there. To give you an idea, the classes only had like 8 students. And one of my, from my first year, one of my fellow students was Prince Mahidol of Thailand, who's now King Rama X of Thailand. And it's just such a small world. And so I have to do a whole chapter about Millfield. And then I have to read my diaries. I kept a lot of diaries and then glean it from that. But then I also want to talk about, working in Hollywood as background. They call us props with appetites when they think we're not listening. But I really love that. I was a regular on West Wing, and then I worked on Catch Me If You Can, and War of the Worlds, and World Trade Center. Just all kinds of films. And it's very interesting to see how they put films together, the lighting, the action, the dialogue, everything. I just love it. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And, that's kind of pretty much what I tried to do when I wrote Living and Dying Without Whining. I tried to write about things that I've been fortunate to do that most people don't get to do. And that's the fun of sharing, which you obviously have a whole list. So now I want you to keep me in the loop when your next book comes out.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you for that. That's very, very nice. Yeah, it's so much fun too, because as you know, you have an opportunity to honor people. I mentioned a lot of people in my book, because they all helped make my life golden. And they shared the adventure with me in India and Saudi Arabia and Malaysia and who knows, everywhere. I mean, Nigeria, there's just so much. And so I express gratitude to them and what they brought to the table for me, because life is your God's classroom. It's all a learning experience, right?
I know. Then everyone you meet, they're the teachers. They're here to show you, to help you, to guide you. And I hope you have a lovely holiday season wherever you end up this Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, listen, I appreciate you so much having me on your show, and it's been delightful. It's like ladies speaking without the cocktails.
Well, next time I'll have cocktail for you. You can have one there.
That sounds good.
Thank you again, Tania Anderson. Have a wonderful holiday. Everyone, be sure to get my book. And if you go to info@januaryjones.com and in the subject line put free book, I'll send you an ebook for Christmas. There, I got a phone call. Have to go. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. We've tried to be informative and inspiring today with Tania, sharing her amazing stories. We'll see you next Thursday live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for entering the No Wine Zone and share our stories in our show with everyone you know. Remember, you need to stop whining, and then you need to start smiling. And if that doesn't work, then you can just start eating chocolate. Lots and lots of chocolate. Take care and stay safe. then be sure to glitter and glow until we meet again.
We want to thank you for listening to January Jones Sharing Success Stories. Always remember Ms. Jones' personal mantra, if you can think it, you can do it. That's what all of our guests have done with their lives, and so can you. You are the ultimate success coach in your own life. All you need to do will be to start sharing your own story with your family and friends. We hope that our guest stories will encourage you to explore an equation in your future that will combine your creativity plus connecting with others will enable you to be successful too. Always remember, your passion plus your purpose will equal prosperity as you explore the wonderful world of January Jones.